Call meeting to order.
Late myself.
Rise for the pledge. Neil, you I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have some meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the September 25th non-public meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those
Oopsie, sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
God dang it. Just get out of here.
I'll make another motion to approve the December 4th budget meeting minutes.
I'll second that too.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll make another motion to approve the December 11th regular meeting minutes.
I'll second those.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 11th non-public meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And finally, I'll make a motion to approve the December 18th budget meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Zach, you have a member that's on Zoom if you wanted to just double check to see if she's in the room by herself, please.
I
I am,
Thank you.
except for a couple of cats.
Oh,
Oh. Are they talking cats?
No, but you may see them cross my face.
Yeah, they did that during the budget meeting,
I
actually.
saw that.
Oh,
Nice, thanks for calling me out, Bill.
I missed it.
I spoke to him.
I'm sure he'll listen.
All right, the select board will meet on the following dates. Monday, January 22nd for a regular meeting beginning at 5 p.m. Also on the 22nd, we'll have the first public budget hearing, which will begin at 5:15 p.m. Thursday, February 8th, we'll have the second public hearing if needed, and that will be at 5 p.m. On Monday, February 12th, we'll have a regular meeting at 5 p.m. And Monday, February 26th, a regular meeting at 5 p.m. Town offices will be closed on January 15th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. / Civil Rights Day. And then we have the presidential primary election coming up on Tuesday, January 23rd from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. at Plymouth Elementary School. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before noon the Thursday before the scheduled meeting. All meetings will be held upstairs in Town Hall and held by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouthnh.gov. Should update that on the agenda template.
Oops. We will do that.
Town manager's report. Scott is unable to attend this evening. And how did we want to handle that?
I can just go through and give you a few updates of what he's saying here.
That'd be great.
All right. So, this is the town manager's report for January 8th. First of all, the police department, effective December 31st, Sergeant Kevin Short has retired from the police department with a total of 22.5 years in law enforcement. The last 5 years was with the Plymouth Police Department. And we all wish to thank Kevin for his service and commitment to the town of Plymouth.
Yeah, thank you.
Pease Public Library. There is a new little free library in town, and it's right out in front of Town Hall. Students from Mount Prospect Academy built a beautiful little free library and partnered with Pease Public Library to supply books for all. The Town Hall HVAC system, we received, as we reported before, we received 2 proposals, one from Denron And, let's see, oh, 3 proposals, I'm sorry. HVAC and Bullen Service HVAC. We have about $150,000 right now that we've set aside in the ARPA fund. And the quotes came in anywhere from $361 to $152,000. So a lot more than what we had originally anticipated. So Scott is working with the Denron to see whether or not we can come up with potentially a 3-phase approach so that over 3 years we could do this instead of all at once, because we just don't have the funds. The December 19th rain flood event, the town of Plymouth experienced moderate flooding during the storm the week of December 18th. We had flooding conditions on Route 3 South, Smith Bridge Road, Fairgrounds Road, and Loon Lake Road area, which cut off access for residents. Other areas impacted were the dirt and gravel roads, which experienced spring conditions, making the roads very soft and passable. The major areas of impact were, again, Loon Lake Road, Bell Road, Stenson Road, Cummings Hill Road, and Texas Hill Road. The Highway Department has been out working diligently to repair these areas. And then this was the first major rain event since the downtown drainage project. And Scott is very pleased to report that the drainage system is working full. The pond was full, but he also wants to thank the fire department, police department, highway department for their work during the storm and keeping the community safe. Property assessments and tax rate meetings over the past 3 weeks. Scott has had several concerned citizens that he's met with. He's actually going to be meeting with a neighborhood this coming Sunday. There is a specific neighborhood that asked him to come and meet, and he's willing to do that if anyone else would like him to do that. In setting the new assessments, we've discussed the tax rate and everything the Selectmen Budget Committee and town departments are doing to lower the budget for the coming March meeting. He's working on strategies. He's also working with the SAU, the elementary and the high school, to discuss budgets and collaboration opportunities. And some of those are including the office supplies, propane, oil, things like that, that we can all work together and get the same price. I do have an update from the tax collector that as of today, 81% of the taxes for this tax bill that just went out have been collected as of today.
Wow.
So,
I was
quite
waiting for the last
impressive.
day.
Yeah.
yeah, she's been very busy. The elementary school, the high school, and the SAU are all having quarterly meetings as well to follow up on the tax rates and property tax. At the end of the last meeting, we spoke about allowing tax payments without interest through the end of April 2024 for those that qualify due to the increase in the property tax owners' experience with the revow. It was discussed, but I've asked, and the tax collector has asked, is this something that the board is willing to pursue? The individual would have to qualify, so if they received an elderly exemption, for an example, years past, they didn't get a tax bill because their exemption covered them. Because of the new assessments and the new tax rate, they're receiving a tax bill now. So they would have to qualify, and the question is the board willing for those specific individuals to waive interest through the end of April 2024?
They would still be paying the full.
They'd be paying the
Amount.
tax bill,
Yeah.
just not the interest for that portion of time.
Considering that this was a large unexpected jump for some people, I would support waiving the interest.
Same.
Yeah, same here.
You need a motion, or are you good with a
I'm
consensus?
good with this consensus, so what we'll do is, once May 1st comes around, we will actually bring an abatement to the board with the list of individuals, and you can write off those amounts at that point.
Okay.
All right, so we just want to make sure that you guys are all set with that. Okay.
So I'm sorry, so they have to, is there, do they have to qualify for this additional?
They do.
And so, for the additional, we're not going to charge them interest. So are there new or an additional qualifications? Does that make sense?
If they qualify for an elderly exemption,
Then
they would. They would have to come in and they have to fill out forms. If there's any questions on any of those individuals, of course, that would be brought to Scott or potentially to the board. The tax collector could always say no. You know, she can bring it forward and the board can say no for certain individuals. They have to fill out a form and they have to prove that they qualify, and this is creating a hardship for them, so to speak, with this new rate going up. Again, most of the people who received elderly exemptions in the past, and I think there's not many of them, never received a tax bill because they qualified for an elderly
Right.
exemption.
But as far as us saying yay or nay, are we going by some sort of rules, some sort of guidelines? Why would we say no?
Well, you may know an individual more than I do. Something may change. This gives the tax collector the authority to make these arrangements with certain individual who prove to her that they need this additional write-off, so to speak.
But we don't define what prove means?
She has a form that she uses. for
Okay,
that.
so there is some sort of official,
Everybody fills out
formula.
the same form, that's correct.
okay, all right. So the no isn't just kind of
No,
arbitrary,
no, and she
Okay.
knows, she's very good, she knows every single one of these individuals who may
And now
come
is
to
it-
her.
is it just the elderly? Are there other, vets? Do we,
I don't have a form here that I can, because really this is not my place, this is coming from the tax collector directly.
gotcha.
So if you wanted to hold off, if there's, Mary Ann, we will provide you a copy of the form that they have to fill out. Will that
I just
help?
wanted to make sure we were being fair to everybody that we allow. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
If you want, I will put this on the agenda for the next meeting, if that's,
Yeah, I think that makes
and then
sense.
you'll have more information. Okay.
Thanks, Ann.
All right. Sorry, I gotta write. I'll forget. Okay. All right, so we have actually, Scott and I have created a total compensation package memorandum to all full-time and part-time regular employees. The memo includes annual salaries, health insurance, dental, the costs associated with that, retirement, annual leave, annual sick pay, paid holidays, unemployment, long and short, life and short-term disability insurance. We've outlined other programs that are available, flexible spending, the Mission Square Retirement, and the Employee Assistance Program. These forms are going to every individual to attempt to try to get everyone to understand it isn't just pay. It isn't just in your weekly
Full picture
paycheck.
of their compensation.
So this is the first time we have ever done this. Well, I've been here, maybe it was done in the past, but it hasn't been done for quite some time.
Could we get an example of what one of those looks like? It doesn't,
Absolutely. I
like
can
a real
email it to
person
you.
or whatever, but I would love to just see what that overall package looks like.
We have, I can provide you a full list as well, if you'd like to see that by department. I've created that for Scott,
Yeah.
so. You have a
And
public
is this a
hearing.
manual effort?
I'm sorry?
Is this a manual effort, something you've had to calculate person by employee by employee?
Yeah, but once we go ahead and calculate it in that manner, it'll be much easier in future years. We know now what it looks like. Yes, so we've created that.
All right, I'm going to pause you there, Ann, so we can open the public hearing. Opening a public hearing on acceptance of unanticipated funds. Let me see if I've got this one. The Plymouth Select Board is holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 31:95B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds from the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation in accordance with House Bill 2 for maintenance, construction, and reconstruction of town-owned bridges for which municipalities must bear the responsibilities. The town has been awarded $30,079.21 from this special one-time payment, and the funds will be allocated to the Loon Lake Road Bridge project. Yeah, any additional details you want to share on that?
No, this is additional money that has come in from the state, and it needs to be used on town-owned bridges specifically. Again, they're saying it's a one-time payment, and the bridge that we do have a couple bridges that we need to deal with, but the easier of the two to work on at this time is Loon Lake Road.
Okay. All right. Take any public comment on this hearing if there is any. All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any commentary from the board?
Not for me.
No, not for me. Want a motion?
I'll close the hearing and then we'll take a motion.
Okay.
Closing the hearing at 5:18.
I move that we accept this $30,079.21 from the state for the Loon Lake Road Bridge project.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, so your next public hearing's at 5:30, so I just want to
I'll try to keep an eye on that one.
try to be quick. So we can move on to the tax deed auction update. Public auction of 34 Fairgrounds Road was held on Saturday, November 18th at 3 p.m. The property the high bidder was $180,000. The property has now been sold to that bidder, and the town received all the back taxes. It's about $48,000 that we got out of that sale. Let's see, flood risk open house. FEMA will be hosting their annual open house to help inform the public about the new Grafton County flood maps. That'll be held here at Town Hall on the evening of January 10th, 4 to 7 p.m. That's a long hearing there. Welfare, our welfare director has been very busy during the month of December. She assisted 43 individuals with a variety of resources to include housing, electric, and rental. Future budget meetings, I think you've already announced this, Zach, but I'll do it again. So we met earlier today, 1:30 to 3:30 for our final review. And then we go to our public hearing on January 22nd at 5:15. And then Thursday, February 8th, I'm sorry, at 5, that should say 5 o'clock. So can you change that, please? Thursday, February 8th, because that's the only meeting that we have that night. We boosted that to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I announced at the top of the meeting.
Okay, yep, it was just, okay. Plymouth State University, the Master Planning Committee on Thursday, January 4th. Scott met with Jessica Dutile. They discussed a number of topics to include parking during flood events, permit parking at Fox Park, transfer student orientation on Sunday, January 24th, and continued work on the Pirate Party for 2024 to include events for underage students off-site.
What does that mean?
I'm sure that they're trying to separate the two parties, one underage and one above
Good luck.
age. Be my guess.
So that's a given? We're gonna have pirate party again?
The assumption
Actually,
is,
the college has been, they were very good last year.
They did a very nice job in
Really good job.
2023.
And they actually had it at the housing,
They did it at the student apartments and the
keep them,
sort of.
Wasn't
'em
on
home.
Winter Street?
It was not. No,
they moved them.
no. We managed to
Okay.
keep that
the
contained
attempt was to
on
put it
campus.
in front of Mary Lion, but it
Right.
didn't work. And
Yes.
Nobody wants to be
Wonderful.
there.
Thought
Yeah.
that maybe we were faking them out.
So just, I'm gonna continue the downtown drainage project update. Main Street, Warren Street, and Russell Street box out and rebuild schedule for spring 2024 has been done. They will include sidewalks in designated areas. And then in reference to the soils on Friday, sorry, Scott, myself, June, and the engineer Josh from HEB talked about the sampling along Main Street, South Main Street, I'm sorry, with the level of contaminate. We received information from John Turner Consultant just before Christmas about disposable costs for materials at different landfills, as well as reusing of the existing material. There's several areas to consider for this process. We are still working on the additional costs, which we were finally able to get that, to present that to the board today. We're looking at additional $500,000 going into the budget for that expense. And as always, Scott's available with any questions, concerns, comments. 536-1731, extension 112.
Since we have a moment, quick update regarding the budget meeting workshop we had this morning. Everybody who is seated at the board today was there, but overall, the budget we're putting forward to the hearings is approximately a 59-cent reduction on taxes. So it's a savings year, which is really nice work from the town administrator, financial office, all the departments.
Town manager.
Yes, I'm sorry. The town manager, there was a moment we thought it was going to be even better, but landing at 59 cents still feels pretty good going into our hearings.
So
All
just a
right.
message from the town manager. Do I have a minute? Just
Yeah.
to target one item. Scott really wants to make sure that there's a strong voter turnout for town meeting day. Everybody should try to be there. We welcome Amy Lee, as the interim town clerk, and Melinda Barnsley as well as our new assistant town clerk. Additionally, we want to thank our first responders. Our fire, rescue, police department, and highway department remain busy as ever protecting, serving our community. As of late December, our fire, rescue, and police department call numbers show a small increase compared to the same time last year. And we are very grateful to the staff and volunteers who serve the community each and every day. So we thank them very highly for keeping us safe.
All right.
you could probably do the appointment.
Yep.
They're here. They're behind me.
Yeah, let's start. Yeah, let's do the Norman LeBlanc. We have a letter from dated December 18th to the Plymouth Selectboard. I, Norman LeBlanc, intend to continue my term on the Plymouth
Conservation Commission.
Conservation Commission. Norm LeBlanc.
I'll move that we appoint Norm to the Plymouth Conservation Commission.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in
I think
favor?
Norm LeBlanc is an excellent choice.
I assume he's been on for a while.
Yeah, it's like, probably 3-4 years.
He was a
something like that.
guidance counselor in the school, and he's very very concerned about environmental stewardship.
That's good. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? 3 minutes.
Sounds like a more fun meeting out in the hall.
Yeah, I know.
Do the unanticipated funds of 519 probably.
Which one?
Actually, the new and old business, you can probably do all three of them if you wanted to.
I wasn't sure if any of them took time.
Pretty-
Or any of those require any discussion?
Votes for all three, and that should be it.
So we have an ambulance service agreement for the town of Bridgewater. Looks like the cost for them is going up from $11,419 in the 2022-2023 year. I don't know if that note is correct.
Yes, it is. I didn't.
You don't have
it.
23,
I didn't have
24.
23,
Okay.
24.
So that's last year. We don't have this year. The next year, the agreement would be $24,965. So substantial increase, really, I would think, resulting from the changes that we've done in our allocation of costs.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ambulance service agreement with the town of Bridgewater.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, you have 2 minutes. Let's look at the next one, which is with the town of Rumney. Same story, 2022, 2023, their cost was $54,638. In the 24, 25, it's going up to $102,622.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ambulance service agreement with the town of Romney.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Just one comment on the ambulance contracts. We have not received a response to date from the town of Ashland. Not sure what they're doing yet. Scott will be following up on that. And Holderness is presenting the proposal to their budget committee, and we anticipate hearing back favorable from them.
Is Ashland contemplating doing something on their own, or?
I think that that is something that has been done, or thought of, yes.
It was in the newspaper that they were contemplating something.
And
Do we know any more details on that something?
they probably are looking at what the best cost scenario is going to be for that community.
Sure, but we don't know what that means.
We don't know what they're going to do yet.
Yeah, I mean, that could be contracting with another ambulance service. It could be
Creating their
staffing
own.
their own ambulance.
Right, right.
I mean, we did significantly increase the costs on those communities, not unduly, right? They've gotten a pretty good ride for a long time.
And considering the cost for an employee, an ambulance, a place to house them, and all the equipment, I don't think they're getting a bad deal.
No, right, exactly. It's a big increase, and
And the
but
billing.
I don't think
And
it's.
that's another expense is a billing, so.
When does their current agreement end?
I believe it is a fiscal year calendar.
Do they sign that annually?
They do.
Yeah, it's an annual agreement.
Right, I just wasn't sure when we had to have an answer by from them.
We've billed them through probably June 30th of '24. So they've got a
Okay.
little bit more time, but they're just holding off to see, they're doing their
Sure,
due
they have to do
diligence.
due diligence, blah,
Absolutely.
due diligence.
That's right.
Easy for me to say.
Or not. All right, I will open a public hearing on the Highland Street project. We're holding a public hearing for the purpose of taking public comment for the upcoming Highland Street roadway project. This hearing will allow the public to present concerns and ask questions related to the redesign, reconstruction, and improvements of the area between Old Ward Bridge Road to Broadway Street along Highland Street. If you guys want to come straight to the...
PowerPoint presentation too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So I don't
Yep.
know how to connect that yet.
All right, Dan may be able to help us.
Grab Dan
get
for
that
you
squared
while
away.
he's reading that.
The preliminary scope includes roadway construction, realignments of intersections, sideway improvements, and installation of granite curbing to this roadway. The project is partially funded through an 80-20 grant between New Hampshire Department of Transportation and the town
And
of
then he's going to
Plymouth.
share the screen.
Residents and taxpayers who utilize this roadway and live within the area are strongly encouraged to attend this hearing. It looks like we've got some good attendance today.
We did send out public notices to anyone that we could, anyone that we thought may be impacted with this, so I just wanted to let you know that as well.
Thank you.
Is there a power source? Computer stays charged for about.
There's none close by. There's one here.
Why don't you sit here for a minute, and I will,
You see your, the other end, and we'll see how far
you
we
reach?
might be able to do it.
I can work with it.
are we in?
Yep, we're good.
Nice.
While we're doing, why don't you hand around that and hand around this? While we're. You have something on already? What's that? I haven't yet. While I'm getting set up here, we'll pass out some handouts and
Perfect.
some.
Thank you.
Josh,
Yes.
we did approve 500,000 for the downtown drainage earlier.
You did. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. How do I join the Zoom?
Log into Plymouth, NH.gov. And if you scroll down,
Yep.
say meeting, oh, nope.
Back up to the quick. Watch meeting. Scroll down to the bottom. Click Zoom. Perfect. I'll let you in. And then I can just share screen. Redirect notice, is that all right? Yep. Just hit that. And then share screen when you're good to go. Mute. Share screen. Let me make this.
You have enough handouts? Everybody get one?
We have a couple more if we need them to.
Here we go.
I'm just
More.
making sure.
Am I echoing? All right, I guess it keeps showing my. How do I get rid of this?
That's on theirs.
Is that mine?
It's on his end. It'll close out.
Is that how you do it? How's that, Josh?
Is there any more of the packages?
Should be. That's good.
There?
It will also be shown on the TV.
Okay. I didn't want to take yours.
It's all right.
All right, I think we're ready if you are.
Ready, yeah.
All right, I'm Josh McAllister with HEB Engineers. I'm the project manager for the Highland Street project. This is Aaron Lamar. He's the design engineer here. He's primarily going to take notes because I tend to talk a lot and have a hard time keeping track of what everybody says. And I apologize for the back of my head pointing to majority of the room. I tend to like to stand up and talk, but I'm seated in front of my computer today.
Maybe we give him a mic.
Oh, he has a mic.
Oh, yeah, it's his.
Sorry.
So we're here to talk about the project that runs from Broadway to Old Ward Bridge Road. And just an overall reason as to why we're here. Our goal is to provide a general overview of what the project scope entails. This is really hard for me. What the project scope entails and receive overall public input about the project. This project is funded through the Transportation Alternatives Program through DOT and Federal Highway, and the town has received $1,329,477.28, roughly, exactly, in federal funding for these improvements. And our first step, in general, is this portion. You know, we've surveyed, people have seen us out and about on Highland Street, but our first step in developing our overall project plan is to sit here and have a public hearing to talk about the project and garner input about concerns, information from the people who use the project or the project area on a daily basis, so that we can inform our design decisions throughout the project. Before we go too far, I'd just like to go through some acronyms that are probably going to show up on your slides and I'm probably going to use pretty freely. That may not be in everybody's daily language. FHWA is the Federal Highway Administration. NHDOT is the Department of Transportation. TAP is the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is the funding mechanism for this project. LPA is a local public agency, which the town of Plymouth qualifies as. That's usually used in the terms of a locally managed project, or an LPA project is one that is funded by DOT but is generally managed in-house by town staff and consultants. And ADA is the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, which is generally used to describe accessible features like sidewalks, ramps, and the like. So this project started as, it's been going on for a long time. The town of Plymouth has been a lot of conversation. I know Joe has reviewed this several times, and even some work has been done on this project. But like I said, it runs from Old Ward Bridge Road down to Broadway, and includes about 2,000 linear feet of roadway reconstruction. Some of the concerns that we have to look at as part of our engineering study phase, which is where we are right now, is provide safe ADA compliant pedestrian infrastructure within the project limits. I think you're all aware that there's some pretty nice sidewalks downhill of Broadway and uphill of the high school or the school access roads. I think bridging the gap could be one of the goals of this project. A second goal of the project would be to improve intersection safety and enhance modes of pedestrian access in and around primarily the intersection at the Reservoir, Old Ward Bridge, and Highland Street. Provide connectivity to adjacent public spaces. You got schools, businesses, and residential areas that are all in this, as you all know. Ensure that we've got safe access all the way around. And obviously, the reason we're here is to be sensitive to known concerns. And so that's part of what we're trying to accomplish here. This is a pretty well zoomed out map of the town of Plymouth, and you can see that our project area extends a pretty small portion of Highland Street, and one that has relatively unique features in that it starts sort of in that dense kind of downtown area and then kind of gets a little less dense and then comes back into a pretty dense residential area as you get to the top of the hill. So we're really just looking at the section of road that runs from Broadway to Old Ward Bridge Road. Just to give a rundown of the funding details, I outlined I think it's like the $1.3 million that the project is budgeted at. This is an 80-20 program where the state and the federal highway, the TAP funding is 80% of the funding, and the other 20% is locally matched. This project requires the town to follow a very specific requirement to meet what's called the LPA process, but the TAP program, which requires us to follow very specific phases to be reviewed by DOT. And when we get into construction, there's a lot of federal labor compliance things that come into it. Each phase of the project that we produce is reviewed by DOT and authorized to move on to the next phase. So where we are right now in this project is we're in the engineering study phase. It's our job to review the project. We've completed survey, we're doing geotechnical investigations, and then we're gonna go through and after this meeting and conversations with other parties, start analyzing what the alternatives are for this stretch of road. And we have to put together a study that shows that we've accumulated the information, we've looked at all the alternatives, and the end result of this study is going to be a preferred action by the town of Plymouth, where HEB will work with town staff to work our way generally through the process, and then we'll come back here for another hearing where we will present what the preferred action is. And that preferred action we'll probably analyze a bunch of different alternatives in different parts of the road, and ultimately we'll get to what we believe would be an action that would meet the needs of the project ideally, be cost conscious, knowing the money that's available, and ultimately work for the users of the roadway is our general intent. This project has got a schedule that started this past spring. The town went out to RFQ for engineering services. Luckily, HEB was chosen, which is good for us and hopefully good for the town. We've got a good relationship here. We've been working in town for a couple of years now on a relatively large project. I don't know if anybody's seen it. We've executed our project agreement in this past summer, and we're in the process of the design and permitting phase. Like I said, we're in the engineering study. Once we complete the engineering study, it's reviewed by DOT. We'll go into preliminary design and permitting, where we will go through not a lot of permitting here, but maybe wetlands permitting. We have to go through the NEPA process, which is the federal requirements for ensuring that we're meeting all environmental regulations for the funding that they're providing. So all of that will happen in our next phase. Once all those permits and stuff are in hand, DOT reviews it again, and then we move forward with our final design construction documents that will ultimately be used for bidding. It's our intent to have bidding for this contract to be completed by the spring of 2025, with construction for this project during the construction season of 2025, with likely project closeout in early 2026 if we can't get it all finished up in 2025. So diving into this section of roadway and some of what we believe are some of the existing critical features for the road. I mentioned it earlier, but this is the only section of Highland Street that doesn't have decent sidewalks with granite curb on both sides of the road. Granite curb and sidewalk on one side and granite curb on the other, with a well-structured drainage system and safe pedestrian passage and reconstructed road. So one of the things that we are going to have to analyze is what is an appropriate reconstruction of the road from between these 2 points at Old Ward Bridge and Broadway. So we're going to look at things like material usage. We're doing geotechnical investigations to know the subsurface materials and be able to understand what types of gravels, how much gravel we're going to want to put in, how much asphalt pavement goes in, how wide are the lanes, how wide is the pavement, how big are the sidewalks. So are we going to do concrete sidewalks, are we going to do asphalt sidewalks? Those are all the things that we're going to have to analyze as part of this project. In this particular circumstance, there's a lot of information up and downhill from where we're working to work from, and we ideally don't want to get too far away from what is already consistent in the area. Another major consideration for this project is intersection alignment. I think we're all aware that the alignment between Reservoir Road and Old Ward Bridge is a little askew, and you've got diagonal sidewalks and weird, sidewalk. This crosswalk is coming diagonally into an existing crosswalk versus appropriate landing areas, concrete ramps, and so on. So, what are the alternatives for that intersection to make it a safer pedestrian location, safer to reduce pedestrian vehicle conflicts? Those are all things that are part of that are going to be, I assume, part of our analysis as we move through this project, and things that we've already had conversations with Joe and town staff about all this. We've had several conversations already with town staff to kind of get a baseline understanding of what their concerns are, and now there's a pretty good turnout here to maybe hear some more. that we can put in to our consideration. So that intersection at the top of the project area is definitely one that we're going to spend some time thinking about. Then there's the curve as you're going up the hill. The roadway narrows, you've got guardrail, you've got a sidewalk that the sidewalk plow can't plow. The sidewalks generally kind of disappear in random areas as you're going up the hill. It's a really tricky area, and what makes it even trickier is that once you get outside that guardrail, it falls off forever. So, widening the road there is a challenge. There's a lot of things that that create complexity there. But again, this is a critical point in the project where, if you want to create safe pedestrian access, maintainable roadway, even, better views for the drivers as they're coming down and around the curve, this is an area that we're going to have to take a look at as far as what the alternatives are there. There's also a culvert well down below that curve that Joe's mentioned that a portion of it is in a failing condition and may need to be upgraded. So these are all things that we're going to have to analyze as part of our project. And again, these are just what we see as some of the critical areas and some of the areas that we've discussed with town staff. Again, we're here to hear some more of that from others as well. So that's just some of the things that we've identified. Some considerations we thinking forward into what we're going to be looking at. We talked about the roadway cross section. Again, what we're showing here on the right hand side of the screen is what you already have. I think the sidewalks, depending on which way you're looking, the sidewalk is on the correct side of the road, but you've got granite curb on one side of the road, you've got paved paved lanes, and then you've got granite curb with an asphalt sidewalk. That's the typical section on the downhill and uphill sides of our project area. We have to take a look at that, but also we're going to be adding a decent amount of curbing in an area where there's some kind of curbing in some areas. We're going to have to take a look at drainage along with that as well. So a closed drainage system exists there now. We're going to need to upgrade that closed drainage system. Those are all the things that are going to be part of our proposed considerations for the project area as we go. Pedestrian safety is a consideration for us. You've got sidewalks. You've got sidewalks that are in a failing condition in this project area. You have crosswalks that don't land in safe areas or land in very small. I think up on Reservoir, there's just a really small landing area for pedestrians using the crosswalks. So we want to make sure that we have crosswalks that have appropriate landing for safe pedestrian refuge as you're crossing the road, that are visible for those. And we've even talked about lighting at the intersection of Old Ward Bridge Road as a consideration for the project as well. Maintenance is another one. We have to provide a project that can be maintained through its duration. As part of the LPA process, you're going to be required to maintain sidewalks, which you do already. So having sidewalks that you are capable of maintaining, I think, is another critical piece for this project as well. And then, a major consideration here, just, the uniqueness of this location is that it's a primary access point to the schools. So there's a lot of different types of users. They're not all adults. They're not all going to be potentially, making sound decisions when crossing the roads and so on. So we want to make sure that what we have is safe for all of the primary users of the facilities that we're proposing. Again, intersection improvements. The one on the left, I think, is the most telling. When you get diagonal crosswalks aren't ideal. We want to be going 90 degrees across roads, providing safe refuge. So that's, again, a major consideration for where we're headed. Wrong way. So at this point in time, the primary goal for us is to hear from anybody who's willing to provide us with input. Aaron's got his computer open for that, so we can I can answer questions for the most part, but primarily what I'm trying to learn is some of the, we'll call it, lack of a better word, insider knowledge for the people who use this section of road every day. What are the problems that already exist? A lot of these conversations I enjoy when people say, hey, my house is this one, and this is what I see directly in front of my house as a problem. Those are really important because those people see that spot every single day. So at this point in time, my contact information is here. It's on all the handouts that everybody got. Scott is always willing to answer a phone call and meet with people as well. So any information that you have that maybe somebody who's not here is willing to provide us, the contact information is here. But at this point in time, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to open up for generally just public input. And if you could kind of state your name.
Yeah, please, approach the podium,
Yes, please.
state your name, try to keep your comments to less than
gonna turn
3 minutes, maybe.
Too. And if you have a specific.
I don't have the timer, but if it gets too long, I'll pull that out.
And if you have a specific property that you're at, your address too would be really helpful for us.
My name's Cam Sinclair. I live at 110 Highland Street, right at the top of the hill. I'm no stranger to the selectmen and the chief of police and the town manager. I've appeared before them all on a matter of public safety. I live right at the top of Highland Street, and a lot of these pictures are...
Just gonna have you hold on for a minute.
Yes.
I'm gonna have you pull that mic right over to you. If you would, please, so everybody can hear your responses.
Perfect.
Thank you.
My main concern is that stretch of Highland that we're talking about is probably the strip of road in Plymouth that sees the fastest traffic. They come up that hill, around that corner, and seriously, some of those cars are going 50, 60 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. The two houses below me have very young children. A 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and as you go along Highland Street, on the other side, there is young children, plus you have the schools. So whatever we're talking about as far as improving the roads and the intersections and sidewalks, if there's anything that's going to happen to, when Highland was paved, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, there was a lot of replacement of water or sewage, I don't know. They dug up that whole stretch we're talking about and repaved it, so it's very smooth. It's probably the nicest existing road in Plymouth at present. And coming up that hill, it's just like people want to accelerate.
Yep.
And they get to the top of that hill, and they're accelerating. And I'm not as close to this blind corner as the 2 or 3 houses below me. But even coming out of my driveway, I'm looking down towards that corner, this one.
Yep.
I don't see a car, and I'm backing out to go towards the high school, and before I know it, there's a car right on my bumper. Not every car, but there are cars that come right up on my bumper. They're angry they have to slow down. They give me a horn, they give me the finger, they yell, they scream. Sometimes they pass on the left on Highland Street. That road in front of my house is extra wide. I don't know why, but it is. And I've been passed on that side as well. So I'm all in favor of making the road, that part of the roadway safer when it encompasses all the children in this town and surrounding towns at the high school. But anything that's going to cause traffic to even go faster because there's less impeding them or they can see better. So I think something has to be done. Besides road improvement, crosswalk improvement, curb improvement, I think it's imperative something has to be done to slow the traffic down. And, the police can only do so much, I understand that. But I think that's a major problem that needs to be addressed in this whole scheme of things.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kristen Downing de Almeida. I live at 98 Highland Street, which is the one at the bottom of the curve, the white one.
Yep.
That, where I live, my driveway, 5 seconds. That's as much time as I have to get out of my driveway if I don't see a car coming down the hill on that curve. And people do fly down that hill, absolutely, which the crosswalk at Broadway, major concern. People do not see the children that are standing there. I step out in front of traffic all the time to get them to stop for those children because they can't see them. So that crosswalk, there has to be something done there to protect the kids there, especially for the kids that are crossing before the police officers get there in the morning. And that culvert is worse after this last storm, like really bad. It was a very small hole last year. It is probably about this big around now, if not bigger, since the storm last week. But yeah, people are flying. The curve isn't the greatest curve, but it helps to keep people a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So that was my only input, but
Great.
yeah, Broadway's huge
So
concern
the
in the culverts.
fly going up
And down.
And fly going down.
Yeah, like seriously, I fear for the children who are trying to cross
Understood.
from Broadway
So
to
they
go
go-
down the bike path
Yep.
because they're fast.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
anyway, and there's no visibility.
What's that?
So Maggie Mumford, my husband and I live at 115 Highland, which is across the street from Cam and up slightly. And it's just at the crest of the hill, and we're on the west side. So when we try to turn in our driveway, definitely we get passed by cars very fast on the right side. And they go in the widened part, which we also agree. Why is it wider there? It just lets everybody go faster. And people definitely go down the hill extremely rapidly. I can't walk across the street. I like to walk downtown and back up, and you can't walk. You have to run because people don't stop and people are going way too fast. When I walk up the street, I do not feel safe on that sidewalk because people are going so fast and it just sort of deteriorates. And I used to ride a bike up the hill. Maybe I still would, but maybe not. But it's very dangerous for any cyclist trying to get up that hill. I'm also wondering, does the project require that there are sidewalks on both sides?
No,
Okay.
there's no requirement on
Yeah.
anything. These are all things that we're assessing.
Because you would think that the side we're on, I'd think, oh, it would be great to have a sidewalk on our side. But I actually don't think it would be good because of the curves and because the schools on the other side have the children cross where they should at better crosswalks and keep them away from our side where it's curvy and it's very steep and the terrain gives you no escape.
No, we haven't really considered
Okay,
both sides.
great.
It's not this typical section on either end of the project. There's only one side of sidewalk
Yeah,
for the most part.
okay.
So, without saying that we've started considering things, we wanted to hear this first,
Right.
but we have not considered sidewalk on both
Okay.
sides.
Wintertime, there tend to be more traffic accidents right at the base of that hill.
Thank you.
She's my better half, Chris Mumford. So the question has come up about why the road is so wide at the top. Maybe you know this, but at some point, I'm going to guess probably in 1960, when that was the main road going out of town, they did some sort of a betterment project and cut the corner, and it wrecked our driveway. It made it like super steep. And just sitting here now, talking about, or everybody's talking about the speed, which is true. Maybe it's time to put the road back where it used to be, make a little bit of a curve there, and people would have to just slow down a little bit. And because, it's definitely just a connector street here in town. It's not like a highway, which it was, I think, when they did move it. So that's my little thought.
the other end of the road, so.
Just a comment, next to my house, there's an empty lot. And there used to be a one-room schoolhouse there that served this community. So my guess is the road is extra wide there because that's where traffic would go into the school.
Sure.
That's just a theory, I don't know if that holds water, but it's a catch-all part of the road. I mean, people using their cell phone, they stop there. All kinds of people pull over there, and unfortunately, that part of the road doesn't get plowed either, even though it's part of the town.
Good evening. I'm Brendan Hoke. I live at 38 Smith Street in Plymouth. And before I begin, I just wanted to say thanks for everyone for being here, and thanks to our highway department. They've already made a lot of efforts to try and improve Highland Street over the years, and they are greatly appreciated. It's great to see so many neighbors here tonight. I know Selectman Terrell, Selectman Wisniewski live in the neighborhood as well. I think the Mumfords aptly put up some concerns with regards to bicycle accommodations, so I don't know if that's something that you're looking at or not. I think that would be a benefit, because I think that could be a potential bikeway between the central business district and points west. And so that is one concern. Traffic calming, I think, would maybe address some things as a way to design the roadway in such a way that perhaps it can, by the design of the road, calm the traffic and get it to slow down. That would be a concern. I have a son who attends Plymouth Elementary School, and as a resident of Smith Street, I'm tasked with the choice of instructing my son how to get to school. There is no bus service. He likes to walk, which is good. But he has to make the decision of, well, should he walk down Smith Street and cross Smith at Highland, where there is a fairly straightforward crosswalk and a good visibility, or should I send him from Smith Street to Smith Ave to Reservoir, where there are no sidewalks on Reservoir, and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. There is no school zone on Reservoir Road, and then have him cross at a much busier intersection. Add to that snow, where a lot of times the snow is not maintained at those pedestrian landing pads. Again, the highway department has got a lot on their hands, and I know they've been short-staffed, so I appreciate all their efforts. But those intersections are of deep concern to me. I know when other section of Highland Street was repaved a few years ago, I believe a blinking light at the corner of Highland and Hitchner that had been disabled for a number of years was refreshed and replaced with a brand new blinking light. Currently we have blinking lights at the corner of Reservoir and Highland. There's another one that's been disabled for a number of years at the bottom of Highland and Broadway intersection. It's not really at the intersection where you'd like it to be, but I didn't know if restoration of those traffic signals would be considered part of this project or not. One more concern, maintaining sidewalk access during construction. So as I said, my son is a resident of, or a student at Plymouth Elementary right now. By the time this project gets underway, he will be a student at Plymouth High School. And so I'm concerned about, is he gonna have to navigate fencing or jersey barriers or that sort of thing to try and walk to school in the morning. There are other residents that use the sidewalks. We've got a large contingent of students at both schools that live in the Maple Street, Hilltop Street. They use DeCage's property to sort of cut the corner to get to Smith, to get to Reservoir, and then make those pedestrian connections there. So even though you don't think there's a lot of kids there, there are a lot of kids that are walking through that neighborhood, particularly during the warmer months. And lastly, a drainage concern, and my wife pointed this out to me this morning. Sometimes, depending on the weather, when you're driving on Smith Street, approaching Highland Street, you're at the stop sign. Because of the drainage in that area, sometimes the water, if it's on the east side of Smith Street, it doesn't have a proper place to drain. It will cross to the west side of Smith Street, right at that intersection. In the wintertime, that causes an ice situation. And so add to that, again, highway department was very busy this morning. They did an excellent job. But if they're not on top of it, that second, it can get slippery there and challenging for a car to enter that intersection. So I'll probably follow up with you one-on-one, but I want to at least get these on the record. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
I live, Widge Kent is the name. I live at 91 Highland Street, which is the corner of Broadway and Smith, so we're just below on the downhill side. But I think everybody that lives on Highland Street worries about the speed. It's the main way to get from downtown west. And it's a residential area, it's a single-family zone, and the traffic just goes way too fast. And I don't know how you design around that, but that's your job.
Yes, it is.
The other thing I don't think people have mentioned before is the corner, that curve that just after going up the hill, just after Broadway, is a very funny angle, so that everything gets pushed sort of on to the downhill side. So if you're walking on that sidewalk, you're always feeling like it wouldn't take much for somebody to come wiping you off of that sidewalk. You feel very unprotected there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my other thought.
Okay. Thank you.
David Kent, I live with Widge at 91 Highland Street. I think 3 issues. The top area where it flattens out, there's a lot of ledge there. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there is. Second one, you guys dug some sort of a test hole down at the bottom in front of our house. Is the road going to go and cover that, or is that going to remain as a patch?
In the pavement,
Yeah.
it would be part of the reconstruction area.
So it's going to go down beyond Broadway.
We would go just beyond Broadway with our section of road. There's also a concurrent project going on. There was explorations being done for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District project as well. But if it's in the roadway, we will probably, I'm going to guess, we're going to incorporate the Broadway intersection and go downhill of it
Well, you dug
some
the
level.
hole.
Well, our consultant did, so I don't know exactly where the hole is.
Well, you were there when they dug it.
I was not.
When?
No, I was not
She
there.
thought it was.
No.
It was you. Okay. As far as the speed issue is concerned, too, generally, you will find at least once or twice or 3 times during a winter, they have to close the road from the top to the bottom because it just becomes a sheet of ice, and as it was said, everybody slips to the
Sure.
inside of the curve. And we have a share of accidents. Enforcement might be the only way out of the problem of the speed, but it is a significant issue. If you come down that hill at 30 miles an hour, like it says, you'll have people on your bumper beeping their horns, giving you the bird. It's really a bad situation.
Thank you.
Hopefully I don't talk too loud. I'm a hockey coach. Sometimes my voice booms, so.
It's all right.
Anyhow, so I'm at 144, so I'm at the other end, and I'm right in your crosshairs about the high school. So I definitely would be interested. I know where my property line is with that neighbor, and my back line, I have no clue where it is on the street side.
Sure.
I will tell you, I can't believe I'm actually going to agree with all these people. I actually don't leave by the curb cut from my building onto Highland. I go to Bridge because I don't know what you're getting. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going to come out there, and that's kind of a crapshoot.
Yep.
It would be interesting at what you could do, not necessarily just to slow people down or just to be more mindful of people pulling out. I will say that intersection doesn't see a lot of kids. It sees a lot of cars, and they back up really bad. And they will actually cut through my property in order to shortcut to get to the high school. And that's fun. Because when they do it, I think they do it at 40, even though it's like a 20-foot long driveway. They want to take every advantage they can. One thing I noticed at the other end of the road, they have that little speed clock, which is kind of cool. I always like to try to keep on the happy side of that one. So even though I have to downshift, because that's the problem coming down that hill. When I'm going down the other end, I'm in third gear slowing down my automatic, and it's hard to keep it below 30.
Yeah.
You just naturally, car just wants to run down that hill. The other thing about, it's really a wide road. Sidewalks, what they have done, so I also have a house down south in Haverhill, Mass. And what they did in North Andover was they had the sidewalks jut out. So it doesn't come into the travel section, but it juts out, and if you do it on both sides, it naturally closes the road down.
Right.
And
At
if
the
you want me, I can
crosswalk?
send you some pictures or
At
something.
the crosswalk locations?
Yeah, at the crosswalk location.
Yeah, those are pedestrian bump outs. It
Yeah, and
creates, it gives you a visual, it gives the vehicles visual of the pedestrians. Instead of them being over here, they're actually sort of almost in the travel way. And
Exactly.
it creates sort of an artificial narrowing of the road. We did this in several places. We did it in Bridgeton, Maine. We've done it in Berlin. The city of Berlin had some of the same issues, and we created some pedestrian refuge that way that also had a visual narrowing of the road.
Yeah, I think if you certainly consider that, that'll be a huge impact, because everyone naturally slows down anytime you see a crosswalk. They have the big yellow signs, not flashing or anything, just big yellow signs, and everyone notices that, so, cool. But I'm hoping that we can talk about what you're gonna do to my...
We don't know yet.
Well, 'cause
We're
you're already
hearing.
talking about moving the road this way.
We don't know
Yep.
what the plan is yet. You know, we've started batting around ideas for the intersection at the top of the road. We've started batting around ideas for what we can do with the curve, but we wanted to really hear what the local concerns. That's why we're here, to really hear what those things are, because that may make some alternatives more palatable and of a better thought than others. You know, one idea that we've batted around, and I don't know if this is going to be, if I'm really going to enjoy saying this, but is a roundabout at the intersection at Old Ward Bridge for a couple different reasons. One, it slows traffic down as they're entering. It's a more efficient intersection. It allows you to keep the roads as they're currently aligned without having to realign in an intersection. We haven't designed or anything like that, but these are the alternatives that we're gonna, when we've got a misaligned intersection like that, and speed concerns, these are the alternatives that have to go into our analysis. Now, ultimately, we don't know if that would be palatable to the community or the town or any of those things, but those are the things that we're kind of laying out there as options, tools at our hands that we can take a look at. So those are, the thing with roundabouts is they do have that need to slow down. And it also would break up that straightaway a little. I mean, it doesn't really fix the speed coming out of the curve, but it may brake check, especially if you have a roundabout sign in advance. So I'm not even sure that that's an alternative for this location, but those are the types of things that we have to take a look at in our analysis to try to solve. Maybe there's a solution or two that can solve 2 or 3 problems at the same time. Or so.
I vote you leave the road right where it is.
I don't want to get too deep in the roundabout conversation because it was just, I shouldn't have, I mean, I was a little bit leery about saying it out loud because I know roundabouts, I'm from Conway, we've got too many of them. And I know that there's, it ends up being a conversation that ends up, you can get in the weeds on, but it's just, I wanted to express it as a tool that has the ability to solve multiple problems at the same time. I haven't even mentioned this to the town yet, so I don't know if they're gonna get mad at me. I'm not here for votes. I'm not here for votes. I just wanted to say that there's tools that we look at that kind of solve multiple problems at the same time, and that as an example is one of them.
Anecdote.
Maggie, will you just go to the, so
Sorry.
make sure we capture your voice.
Brief anecdote. We paid for a post office box for 20 years because we were told we had to have a box across the street. And we wanted,
Across the street.
and we didn't want our 3 kids walking across the street.
That's understandable.
And I just have a question. Do you have a count of the pedestrian use of the sidewalk there?
I don't have that.
Because I know you've got a good traffic count, but Cam, I think you would agree with this. There's a lot of people that use that sidewalk.
Yes.
And I think that to have a welcoming, nice pedestrian corridor along that street, that's going to be a big enhancement for this town.
I want to reemphasize something that I think. The catch basin at Broadway and Highland regularly collapses.
Okay.
Okay? There's something about the ground or the way the water goes or something. The hole keeps getting bigger, and then they rebuild it, and then it gets bigger.
Okay.
They rebuild it.
All right.
Put a couple cars in it.
Anybody else? I'm going to take my board chair hat off for a second and speak as resident of 116 Highland, which is the one right at the top of the hill with the roundabout driveway. So a couple of things. Definitely the traffic is an issue. My wife bought me a reflective hat this year for winter because we have all commented on how snow blowing my driveway is probably how I'm going to die. It's a huge risk area. I don't want to get into the roundabout idea, but I've spent a lot of time driving in Europe, and every residential area as you enter it has a roundabout, and that is an extraordinarily good way to do calming of traffic. So any road traffic calming ideas I think are really good. One thing to consider though on the Old Ward Bridge Road entry, I know that as it is today, that is a very tricky entry for buses.
Yes.
You know, making that corner, if you're exiting, it's hairy.
Yes.
Just something, I'm sure.
I've entered on a bus. I coached Kennett's baseball team, so
You've entered on a bus, you've ridden on a bus,
I've
yeah.
taken that bus, turn on a bus before. You have to pull into the other side and.
Yeah, and if you're 5 feet too forward as the person at the stop sign, the bus driver's looking at you with. Along those same lines, flow in and out of there. Again, at 116 Highland, every morning as the high school students are entering the school, that traffic's backed up past my house. Sure. And then when the second round comes of elementary school, the traffic's backed up. So every day that traffic is backed up. So anything that helps that intersection keep people moving. And then the tiniest little thing, because it is right in front of my house, where Cam talked about the road being wider, as that sidewalk approaches my driveway, it's not aligned with the sidewalk that runs in front of my house, past my driveway.
Okay.
So what happens is the snow plow tractor approaches that sidewalk, it misses the sidewalk, ends up with one tire on earth, and has twice rolled over into my hedges.
Okay.
And it's misalignment. It's not, it's not bad driving on the snow tractor's job. It's just, and you don't even think about it when you're walking it, because you walk across my driveway and you just make that subtle adjustment. But when the snow's covering it, you can't see it, and they drive right into it. So, something to fix. All right. Select board hat back on.
Actually, can I, so
Yeah,
you were
can change
talking,
hats.
you were talking about like, Old Ward Bridge and the fact that buses have to have, so just straighten it out, go right across the river and have a bridge and a curb cut in the Tenny Mountain Highway.
There you go.
Slightly out of scope.
Yeah, but perhaps.
I agree.
At some point, it'd be
Love
kind
to
of
design
nice.
a bridge, but
What's that?
we'd love to design a bridge.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm not sure we can do that in
We
this
could call it
project.
New Ward Bridge
That's right. That's right. I like that.
someday.
New Ward Bridge. Brendan, did you have another comment?
Sorry.
Yeah, the discussion just got me sort of brainstorming some things and thinking about another reason why I send my child to school as a pedestrian and I don't typically drive him is because the traffic flow in and out of the school is just, it's easier to drop off somebody at Logan Airport, quite frankly. And I'm happy to see Ms. Carey in the room tonight. So hopefully you'll be reaching out independently to the school board to ask for their concerns. I'll just say, and this happened to me, I think last week, where I was coming out. I actually did need to go to the school for some reason, and I'm at Old Ward Bridge trying to make the left onto Highland Street, and it's morning. And so when you look to your left at that intersection in the morning, sun glare.
Yeah.
I don't. Obviously, reorienting the intersection is going to be a challenge. I'm a meteorologist. Sun angles can be predicted pretty easily. So if you can find a way to factor that in to minimize the sun angle on that, that would be great. We've talked about traffic calming. You've got your picture in your presentation of the gentleman here directing traffic. I fear for his life daily. He's doing an outstanding job. The person who was doing it before him was doing an outstanding job. It's a job nobody wants to do. If you guys can design something so that we don't have to have this person there, or he can be off to the side helping the little kids cross in the morning, that's going to be a win for everybody. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yeah, please, Neil.
When I was growing up, I lived on Smith Street, so I'm familiar with Highland Street. And I've seen multiple car pileups on that hill. And I noticed that the road is banked, almost like a racetrack. So, you can really go on that hill. And if you get it kind of so it's level, and also the steepness of the hill is extremely dangerous under adverse weather conditions. And I worked on rebuilding Highland Street 25 years ago, from Langdon Street down all the way to the railroad station. And we cut where the Museum of the White Mountains is. We cut 18 inches down. We blasted and took the top of the hill down, and then there was a hump down where the crosswalk is to Boyd Hall, and we cut that hump down so that we got a constant grade, and we kind of took the slope out of it, and that made a big difference in safety on that hill. So I don't know about if you have enough room to do a roundabout, but a roundabout would definitely slow people down.
It would. And just speaking to the curve and how it's banked like a racetrack, it's amazing what you can do to slow people down by just making it a little bit more uncomfortable to go around, a turn by bringing it back to a more traditional crowned road, or even level, have only one side of it banked in for drainage, or you can reduce that. A lot of that traffic calming can come through driver comfort changes. And so if you're uncomfortable, you'll tend to slow down while still obviously maintaining a safe design.
I think the people that are trying to pull out of their driveways need to have an extended line of vision too. And right now they just don't have enough line of vision.
Yeah.
One more. When the Lakes Region Mental Health Center opened up Plymouth and redid their parking lot, and they also made allowances for, like a walk-in, but there's no curb cut on the other side, there's no crosswalk right there. Maybe just consider that it might be useful, because there's a lot of foot traffic that goes in there, just because it's being accommodated on one side of the road. And
All right. Any further public comment?
I did check online, there is no comments.
Oh, thank you, Ann.
And just one change on the town manager, should be town manager at PlymouthNH.gov.
Oh.
In case you tried to reach Scott.
It's not the right email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Checked everything but that.
All right.
like your presentation. It's excellent.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Most appreciated. And I will close the public hearing at 6:26.
Thank you, Josh. Good job. Whoops.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Almost forgot. I have a Dell laptop. Maybe I'll keep it.
If you did, the computer wouldn't stay on for longer than 15 minutes.
Probably one of the more popular meetings we've had.
We actually sent out
Sent letters.
notices.
What's that?
We sent out notices to everybody along that roadway. Which is great. because
Unfortunately, it's the school budget hearing tonight, too.
Yeah.
it's okay, nobody goes to that anyway, so.
That's why my wife wasn't here to ask the questions I had to ask.
Time did you say it was, Zach?
6:26.
Thank you. I'm gonna move more.
You can do it more subtly than I can. I just have to use the hammer.
Take it outside.
Start just wrapping it on the table.
You could just say, moving along with you.
We're getting close to quiet enough to move on. All right, so we have
Acceptance of
and unanticipated funds. So we got a letter from Tom Morrison, Fire Chief, addressed to Scott Whedon, Town Manager. Town Manager Whedon, I'm pleased to inform you that we've received notification that we've been awarded a grant from the 2024 Volunteer Fire Assistance Funds grant in the amount of $519.99. These funds are to be used for forestry equipment, and we must provide a 50% match, which we have budgeted. The plan is to purchase 2 portable foam cartridge nozzles. I applaud the efforts of Deputy Chief Kevin Pierce, who authored this grant application. Every little bit counts, and we'll continue to seek out alternative funding. We would ask that the Select Board authorize the acceptance of these unanticipated funds so that we may move forward with the purchase. Please let me know if you should have any questions or concerns. Sincerely, Tom Morrison, Fire Chief.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the $519.99 to be used to purchase portable foam cartridge nozzles.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Signature file review.
So I only have a few items for the board to consider tonight. We have a denied, this is going to be a veteran's tax credit, and someone who applied, but they don't live here. So they cannot get the veteran's tax credit, so I just need your signature with the understanding that that is denied. I have another veteran's tax credit. This one is for approval. They meet the qualifications.
January 8th.
Yeah, I knew that.
24.
I knew that too. I was very careful about that one.
That's the one that's easy to mess up this week.
Yeah.
So we have a 2023 Municipal Assessment Data Certificate. This is something that we report to to New Hampshire DRA, that we are doing I can't say the word, we're doing a value update for the 24-25 year. That's what we did for the 23 year, I'm sorry. There's a form signed by the assessor and also gets approved. And the last 2 items, one is a abatement for the Pemi Valley Habitat for Humanity. We are actually abating interest of the first bill. At the time that the first bill went out, there was no determination on their status of exemption. Since then, it has been determined that they are tax exempt. The second abatement is for Public Service of New Hampshire, and what we are refunding and abating to them is going to be the school portion of their tax bill, because they, as a utility, do not pay the school portion. And that's all I have.
And I'm assuming you don't need my signatures, you have enough?
Correct.
Okay.
As long as I have 3, I'm good.
We certainly miss it though, Mary Ann.
I miss it too, Bill.
You'll be back on the 22nd, though, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Everything's healing well, so yes.
Good.
All right, that's it for the signature file. On to committee reports. Mary Ann, Plymouth Village Water and Sewer?
So, mea culpa, I have left all my notes at the shop. I don't think I have a Plymouth Water and Sewer, but all my notes are at the shop.
It's possible you didn't with the holidays.
Right.
Planning Board.
We met on January 4th. We had a report by John Christ, the chairman, on the housing project, housing committee. And we also reviewed the 8 articles which are proposed amendments on the zoning ordinance. And they decided to go in reverse. And they started with the 8th article because that was the most contentious article. It involved the Fairgrounds Road Residential District Overlay, which runs from Route 3 up as far as the fairgrounds. And the water actually runs up as far as the Mormon church in the chainsaw shop, but that wasn't included. This overlay is going to, if it's accepted by the voters, it will encourage high-density housing development to alleviate the housing shortage in our community. There's a substantial amount of high-density housing in this area. It will allow people who are in the overlay zone who want to continue to operate agricultural type activities to opt out of the high-density regulations. So there will be different regulations for the high-density housing than there are for somebody that's got dairy cattle. And then from the fairgrounds further west, that's going to remain in the agriculture zone. So those people will be subject to agricultural zone regulations. We had quite a lot of discussion about how high-density housing might affect a person that wants to be able to have some kind of input. If their neighbor wants to put in 4 or 8, units on, they could put in up to 8 units on a 1.5 acre piece of land with water and sewer. And so we were suggesting that they have an opportunity to put it in special exception so that it could go to the zoning board. Now, the zoning board could not refuse it if they meet all the regulations, but it would give those people an opportunity to have input. That was the most contentious aspect of that zone. We're going to meet again on February 1st to consider a change to the accessory dwelling unit by special exception in that zone. That will be a third public hearing that we had not planned on, and it's going to be very tight, but Joseph said that he could meet the timeline for advertising it. Amendment number 7 will remove open space residential development and move it to subdivision regulations. And it was recommended by the committee. Amendment number 6 was recommended. I'll have to go backwards with this thing. Number 6 pertains to new structures, and we have a chart that shows what's permitted and what's special exceptions, and it's just, there's so much to it. In every zone, only one main residential structure and 3 accessory buildings or uses customarily incidental to it shall be allowed on a lot without a special exception from the Board of Adjustment. And then it goes down through commercial locations and multiple buildings on a single lot. Amendment number 5 pertains to accessory dwelling units and use permits for parking criteria. And amendment number 4 pertains to changing one parking space this is a 3-hour meeting. It deletes the existing regulation and replaces it with a new off-street parking regulation. And amendment number 3 pertain to zone objectives and land use controls, and it amends the tables of area dimensions and it was recommended by the committee. And it, you know, you go to the single-family zone, the multifamily zone, the ag zone, commercial industrial, village commercial, highway commercial, and one of the changes on the chart under agriculture is that minimum lot size would be 1 acre instead of 40,000 square feet, so that it would be in compliance with the state's requirements for septic designs. And on amendment number 2 pertained to residential institutional use tables, and amendment number 1 described definitions. So I think we haven't made any changes on zone objectives and land use controls. That's the best I can do.
It's a lot.
It was a 3-hour meeting.
Are they creating some sort of explainer for the public on those?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure that Joseph's gonna have a handout.
Okay.
So
That's
that,
what they've done in the past, I believe.
Yeah,
At
the last
voting day,
couple
they
of
usually
times,
have-
they've
yep.
produced some sort
Yeah.
of summary that says, this is what this does. Sometimes it's a little hard to trace through
the planning board is trying to find ways to make it a little easier for high-density housing in the community because there's such a housing critical shortage.
Just so this is on record, so Neil knows as well, Matt Yeton and John Christ did videos with us at the station. So all 8 amendments that are being proposed are online that people can go hear what it's written about and what it actually means. So that's
Okay.
all on our Pemmy Baker TV YouTube channel.
There's video explainers.
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's even better.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Neil?
There's also a Facebook group called the Concerned Taxpayers of Plymouth.
Oh, really?
Should be a lot of people.
Something new. Yeah.
There are only about 24 people right now,
Uh-huh.
but I'm sure it'll expand quickly.
Did you start that, Marianne?
Covert, Bill, very covert.
All right. That's it for planning board. Campus Community Council's
Nothing till spring.
nothing till spring. PES,
They are meeting, well, they met
5, 6.
Six.
That's 6.
tonight, so we weren't able to attend.
I'm sure they said lots of things about their budget.
I'm sure they did. I'm hoping that they announced that they refined it from last time where it was up quite a bit. And I'm hoping through initiatives, I know Scott reached out to them to hopefully encourage it to be a little lower. I think that naturally it would lower too, but since we're not there, we can't see.
Okay. You want to talk about the high school?
Sure.
You were there.
I was there. The high school, the actual meeting itself was extraordinarily brief. They did talk
6
about
minutes.
the fact that they had handouts for the actual budget meeting which followed it. They did explain where some of these numbers came from. They're very colorful and they're very informative. They were used at a later budget meeting, which was attended by, I would say, 10 or so people-ish. That includes Zach, myself, and Zach's wife. There were some good observations done during that budget meeting. I personally challenged them on a few things specifically. They had mentioned during the actual meeting that special ed was 20%, but also mentioned that parts of special ed were sprinkled into other parts of the budget. So I said, well, how much is sprinkled into the other parts of the budget? And it could be anywhere between 5 and 10%. So special ed could make up as much as 30% of the high school budget. And if you look at their handout, regular ed is only 31%. So I thought that was kind of huge, and I'll put it on Bill's lap because he's our representative of state to change all that.
Well, the change being the lack of funding, right? So there are areas where the law says
You got to do this.
that you have to do this, and that the state will reimburse you for those costs, and then they do not. which is pretty detrimental to our community.
True.
It's the they do not part. It's like the law's already there. It's just the action of doing it, which seems, honestly, it seems like a collection of communities ought to sue the state. Like that really feels like what needs to happen. And then the state either needs to change their legislation or pay up. It's very strange to me.
Yeah. Other than that, it was kind of what you would normally see. A few people asked questions. I myself asked questions about possibly looking at changing the way they approach the benefits, medical benefits specifically, to do something more like what the town did, where they offer incentives to go to a cheaper plan. But that was ultimately said, well, we're locked into the one we're at now because of union agreements, which I guess the staff union is up for renegotiation in 2025, and the faculty one is the year after, I believe, but I don't recall.
I think it's actually staff maybe this 2024 and
Well,
faculty
it
2025.
goes in 2025.
Right, the negotiations would be this year
Start
for
this year.
next year. The one thing I thought was interesting about that is we also have union contracts and negotiations, and we were able to do some of that. So I wonder if there's something they could do to look at the way those union contracts are written in the negotiations to just do what we do.
We offer more,
Yeah, we just offer more options.
just offer
and
more options, and
the
some of them are less expensive.
the act of offering more options actually reduced our costs because people took
Good.
some lower options. So to me, it wouldn't feel like that would be a complicated thing to negotiate in the negotiations where you're just saying, we're going to offer you more options. We're not
We're not taking anything away.
taking anything away from you. We're just giving you more options. And so I was a little surprised at some of the hesitancy.
There was
we
a
got.
lot of hesitancy there, but
I don't.
maybe that can change. Maybe they can reach out to you.
Or it might be a good topic for us to help, that Scott could push as well in his conversations. Ted, I don't have the numbers in front of me. What did the estimated tax impact for Plymouth look like for the high
I'm
school?
trying to remember what.
It's on the green sheet bottom.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Plymouth, the estimated impact is 15 cents.
Up 15 cents, which is 5-ish%.
4.28 according to their
4.28,
numbers.
yeah.
Yeah. So not huge.
The high school worked really hard to try to get that number at 3.
Yeah.
The blended number for all communities is 3, and Plymouth is taking just a little bit more.
I was actually surprised that their budget went up relatively so little.
Yeah. Yeah, they
So
did manage
I'm
their-
happy about that.
They did a good job managing their costs in the end.
You want to see them?
Okay, those are the schools. Conservation.
Get a copy and give it back.
Conservation Commission is occurring next Thursday, the 16th at 7 p.m.
Capital improvement is resting until, I don't know, much later this year. LRPC.
I was late for the last meeting because I had a meeting earlier, so there wasn't much to report. I did town reports and that was it.
Okay. Parks and Rec.
No report. To my knowledge, they have not had a meeting recently.
Parking, Marianne?
No, I think we talked about, certainly there hasn't been any meeting. We talked about last time, I believe, either taking parking committee off this list, because it's sort of gonna be part of economic development. I don't know, I don't think it's quite the high priority, and maybe we don't wanna lose track of it. So I would recommend either taking parking committee off, or just economic development / parking. Either one of them, or don't have an update. We haven't met since the he's end of November. But John's been obviously on break.
Okay. Is there a meeting this month, or will that not happen until February?
There's nothing scheduled.
Okay.
Well, Frank had a comment, or he had his.
Yes, I'm doing the master plan for economic development for the village commercial zone. Parking is one of the subjects, so it's part of the infrastructure. You can't have economic development without.
I'm sorry, could we get a microphone? I can't hear.
I should have made him go to the microphone.
Thank you.
What's your name?
I'm doing the master plan review of the village commercial zone, and it includes parking as part of the infrastructure program. And so we were, at the last meeting, talked about it. It was economic development and parking, and you just call it economic development that requires parking.
Yeah, so I think on the agenda, we can just slash and do them
yeah.
together here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my product, we're gonna wait past the town meeting time, because I didn't want to interject a lot of new data that would interrupt people's voting on our amendments to the zoning ordinance and stuff like that. So we'll put mine out in April.
Sounds good. Thanks, Frank. Energy Commission?
So the December meeting, there was no quorum, but we are going to be meeting this Thursday, the 11th. And well, during the meeting, we did discuss the planned PEC survey that we're developing questions for, and it will be handed out at the annual at our town meeting. So that's being developed, and also there's now a Facebook site for the Energy Commission, and more work needs to be done on that before I guess it goes public or too public. And that's pretty much it.
What's the current status on the solar array?
There was, the need to. Oh, we have. Yeah, sure. You want to give a comment on it?
So I wasn't at the December meeting, but I have been continuing the research. And with the IRA, there are the two separate components, the 30% credit and an additional 10% bonus. Both of those, to get the ball rolling, you have to have the electric co-op's seal of approval on their interconnection, on our interconnection application. Last I knew, that had not occurred as of yet. We're still waiting on that.
I think the EPA though was like 10% or something like that, and that had to have progress on the actual site.
Yes, and so there was progress on the site before the end of 23, and so we met that. The developer is aware that they need to have certain wage standards and apprenticeship to also qualify for the 30% credit, and that the system has to be operational before that credit can be applied for by the town. However, we register ahead of time, but we can't register until we get the co-op. So we're still waiting on the co-op for that. In addition, the 10% added bonus, that's an allotment program. And we were trying to get in the first month, because anyone who applied in the first month, which was last November, was considered a first day applicant. We could not do that because we didn't have the co-op's approval. And they had something like 4 times the amount of applications that they expected on that very first day. And they were going to have a lottery for who even could get part of that allotment. So we're still planning to apply, and we have to work on details of do we have a better chance if we apply for that in 2024, as 2024 is here, and we have not made substantial progress on the site. We've made enough to qualify if we want to. So that's kind of where we're at, as far as I know. So we have a lot to talk about this Thursday.
Thank you.
All right. Advisory Budget Committee met today with the board, but we talked about that. Chamber of Commerce.
The only thing that I can remember without my notes, and I think I put it out to everybody, the travel and tourism event that's happening Thursday, the 25th. I'm hoping to go. I need to try and get my schedule aligned with that. But just mostly note-taking, get information. Is there information there that as a town we can pull out for travel and tourism? Clearly we're not ready for that at the moment, but trying to figure out, define what would that mean for the town to increase, you know, our tourism. Is there anything they're doing as chamber members that we could take advantage of? So hopefully I have something to report back after the 25th as far as that goes.
Great, thank you. Perlac.
At our most recent meeting, actually it was a special meeting to consider the updated Pemmy River Management Plan. Last time it was done was about 10 years ago. And we met, we approved it, and the new plan will be coming out from DES. And this time versus last time we ended up like making, I don't know, probably a couple hundred copies. This time it's going to be pretty much like an plan. So, and they're not going to be handing out too much printed material, so which would be helpful. So that's it from the land of Perlac.
And where will that be found online?
It's going to be posted at the what's the LRPC, Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Oh, okay.
They pretty much offer us administrative help to include posting stuff for Perlac.
I wonder if we should also link to that on
Definitely, yeah.
on our website.
Yeah, and that will be sent out to town managers and also conservation commissions when it's,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, we'll have to keep
completed.
an eye on that when it goes out.
Yep.
Police and Fire Building Assessment Committee has not met in a while, so that's pretty much on hold. That's it for excuse me, for committee updates. Public comments.
Good.
I'm glad you didn't let me down, Frank.
In this discussion of the Highland Street improvement and all of the issues with accessing the school, back in the early 80s, I was part of the team to lay out the Heritage Trail along the Baker River from the Armory. And we were looking also as the trail, but a right-of-way, a 50-foot right-of-way, was part of the application for a bridge cross. So we have access to Tenny Mountain for the schools, but the other access was a Class 5 roadway from Route 3 at the Armory into the school, all that property. First, it would provide very fast, safe access for law enforcement. It would allow a Class 5 way of your buses and any volume traffic that didn't have to go through down in Highland Street and any other side roads that are in town and congested. That I'd have to look through my paperwork to see if that process is still was viable. It might be considered in looking at it in the next couple of years because of economic development in our downtown area. That's part of the things we're looking at. So just to side, when people were talking about that we actually laid it out that it's not in the flood zone or way, but it's in the environmentally sensitive zone. But you wouldn't have to do any cutting or blasting to get it to the school. So
Interesting.
Yeah, and thanks, Frank, but Regarding, I know Alex is more of an advocate for, you know, the right-of-way that would go through like community gardens and go towards the schools that way.
Yeah, that's what he was.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying, but I think Alex is an advocate for that, he's been pushing that as well. And the new Ward Bridge or whatever, that was actually like a congressional budget ad.
Yeah, that got cut.
Yeah, actually, you know, it just, it seemed like it was a go-ahead, and then it just kind of died. But it seems like a pretty viable option.
Yeah, getting us a third path technically, because there is that second path that comes off of Merrill Street, and it's gated that the police can use.
True, yep.
But I agree, some additional pathing through there does seem like long-term would be
And
useful.
at least the bridge too did have DOT approval to make a curb cut on Tenny Mountain Highway, which is the only curb cut that would be allowed from like the Hannaford, you know, area to Route 3. You know, they didn't allow any additional curb cuts except that. So
All you have to do is get the funding.
it's cake.
Yeah.
It's got to be federal though, or it should be federal.
I just want to thank the town for the police presence on Highland Street. It's really, really been helpful at both sites, top and bottom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any non-publics on the agenda, so
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going home.